Hey, and welcome back to Code Review Guru, where this AppSec engineer has taken on the monumental task of trying to empower 1 million developers to secure their code one line at a time. Can I do it? I really don't know. You'll just have to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you can keep following the journey and see how it turns out. So usually on this channel, I'm talking about best secure coding practices, the secure software development lifecycle, and just everything application security. However, in this playlist, I'm stepping out of the code space and instead answering questions that you all have asked me about this field. So welcome to Ask an AppSec Engineer. Today's question comes from a fellow CyberSec friend in my Discord. And if you haven't already, check the link in my description below for the invitation of said Discord, where you can submit questions for the channel, join the study sessions, or just be a part of any upcoming events I'll have exclusively in my Discord. Just a quick plug, but anyway, one user DM'd me and asked, what programming languages do you think I should focus on learning first for source code review? Or should I just focus on the common languages I see in Wapalyzer when analyzing applications at work? And for those who are not familiar, Wapalyzer is an extension for your browser, and it's used to identify any underlying technologies used by a given site. For instance, if you were to migrate over to my website, Code Review Guru, you'll be able to see some of the underlying technologies that create the page, which includes some JavaScript libraries and frameworks, some CMS, and other miscellaneous stuff. So back to it. And before I actually answer this question, let me just say this. Like, sometimes questions like this throw me off only because it seems so broad. And it may not seem like that to like others, but just to get you to understand my point of view and then just open up the whole video, it's like, let me just take it out of tech for a moment. And instead of talking about a programming language, let's think of it as a human spoken language, right? Because that's essentially what it is. But instead, it's for the computer and it's written only, but you can read and write a spoken language. But a programming language is a language used to communicate with the computer to give instructions. So again, taking out of tech, let's say you want to become a translator. And you're looking at me, a person in the field, and asking me, like, what languages should I learn to be a translator? Like, telling you what language you should learn to be a translator. A translator. Like, the question to me is, like, what languages do you actually want to translate for? You see, like, it kind of throws me off. Like, of course, I could tell you to learn something popular, like English. But what if you're a native English speaker? Or what if you don't even care to learn English? What if you care to learn something else? So it just kind of throws me off. I can't really necessarily tell you what programming language to learn in that regard. And maybe that's just the way I think. But here is my answer to the question. And I'm just going to be straight up, just, pulling from the previous example. The language you should learn depends on you and what you want to accomplish. Like, are you trying to review websites, mobile apps, desktop apps, Web3 related apps? Like, because that makes the difference there. And you may want to do all the above, with the exception of Web3. And you could do that with one language and framework. For example, CSharp has the .NET framework. And from there, you can make mobile apps for both iOS and Windows, and I think Android. You do desktop applications, you can do web applications, you can do some websites with web applications on the back end, just with that one language. And then if you just throw a little JavaScript, HTML, CSS for the website piece, I mean, you're pretty much done. I mean, maybe you hate Microsoft and C# as a whole, and you just don't want to go you don't want to go that route because now you're stuck in the land of Azure. Or maybe, you want to focus on the future, which is Web3 applications. And well, you might need to look into other languages that have nothing to do with what I just said. Like, you'll have to look into Golang, Rust, or Solidity. And that's a completely different route. But I can tell you right now, JavaScript overlaps in Web3 apps as well as mobile and websites, but maybe you don't want to deal with JavaScript because there aren't many bug bounties for that language. So you see what I'm saying? Like, I can't tell you what language you should start with. But if I were you, I would do the following. First thing, I would have to sit down and know what I want to focus on. Is it websites? Is it web apps? Is it mobile? Is it web applications? Is it desktop? I got to know what I want to do. The second thing, based off what I want to do, I would identify all the languages that fit my desired focus. So if I want to focus on mobile and Web3, cool. If I want to focus on mobile and web apps, cool. Like if I just want to focus on desktop applications and nothing else, cool. Now I need to identify languages that fit that focus. Now the next step after that, and I think this would be the most helpful, especially for somebody who's looking to do secure code review, and that's narrow the languages with the following 3 criteria, especially for those just starting out and not trying to drink from the fire hydrant that is programming languages. I'm saying, because there's some languages that are still not that documented, and you just gonna have to get under the hood, and maybe you don't want to do all that. So I would look for the following in the languages that I've narrowed it down to. And those 3 criteria is: 1, is it heavily supported? 2, is it heavily documented? And 3, is it updated often? Because in the last one kind of validates the second one. So, I mean, often can be like at most every 3 to 4 years, possibly. There needs to be some type of update to this language, whether it's a micro update or something, just to validate that there's support there and that it's heavily documented. So what I mean by heavily supported is, are a lot of people using this language? Like not like a knit group of people. Like Rust, there's not a lot of people programming in Rust as there are people who are programming in Java. Like that nobody can tell me that's not true. Like there's not that many people using it as much as there were Java programmers. But there's also COBOL, and a lot of people, I mean, that's a dusty language, and nobody's using COBOL for real. It's not like a heavily, like everybody and their mama is writing in COBOL. Like, no. So you want to make sure that it's heavily supported, and like people are constantly talking about it, because then you can go on YouTube and see videos about it. You can go on forums and see people talking about it if you need to troubleshoot something. Like, how many people are using this? The next is it heavily documented? And I will kind of sort of give Microsoft this, as well as Java. Like, these are very known, supported, and highly used languages, and they are heavily documented. Java has they have courses for Java within, I think, Oracle or somewhere that's like JetBeans. Like several courses on it. Same for CSharp. I believe Microsoft is also teaching that for free to learn the .NET framework and maybe even potentially CSharp. So, and how you set up these, the web applications or mobile applications is heavily documented as well. Configurations are heavily documented. The security aspects of it are well documented. So is Python. So that's what I mean by heavily documented. Like, can you refer back to certain configurations with this language? Is there documentation for it? And then updated often, like I said, it updated often pretty much supports the fact that it validates that it's supported, because people are making additions and new updates to this as more findings are springing out with vulnerabilities, and people are checking and making sure that certain nuances of the language are being updated. So you want to make sure you focus on that. And so once they met the criteria, well, first you know what you want to do, and you identify the languages that focus in on what you want to do, and you've narrowed it down. Let's say you still have more than one. Then just go with what makes you happiest after that. Any, meeny, miny, moe it if you have to. Flip a coin, like whatever, because this is now a language you're going to have to dedicate so much time to it that you need to just fall in love with this language. Have a love-hate relationship with this language. Like, sometimes this language you need to have some motivation. Like, you don't want to be 2 months into Python and be like, you know what? I don't want to be no Pythonista no more. Like, I hate Python. I'm gonna move on to something else. Or I hate Java. I'm gonna move on to something else. Because if you want to start doing source code review, like, you're gonna have to really know the ins and outs of this language. And this will kind of even help you, even if you don't know what you want to do. Like, so say you don't even know, like, let's skip out of the 4 things I talked about. You don't even know what you want to focus on, right? You just want to get in there. You want to learn the code and potentially get into secure code review and become a code review guru of the language. Just follow the last one. Look at the criteria and kind of learn the nuances of the language. Even if you don't even program in it, you can kind of really engulf yourself in that language. And you can build on it afterwards. Now, there are other steps to take once you identify your language to basically become that code review guru and really get into the secure code review piece of it. And if you're interested in knowing what those steps are, leave a comment below. Or if you have a more specific question, hop in my Discord and leave it in my Q&A forum. I check that more often than YouTube. I hope this helped you understand what languages, you might want to focus on. And that really just depends on you and your focus and what you want to accomplish. And hopefully once you understand that and you start to, narrow down, like identify the languages you can narrow down using that criteria, and then eventually start following the next steps that if you want to know what they are, again, like I said, drop it in the comment and I'll make a video for it. And then you'll be on your way being that much closer to being a secure code reviewer, otherwise known as a code review guru. So I hope that answers your questions, and I'll see you in the next video.